Here at Arthur Reviews, we strive to find the most ripe films and shows to tackle. Shows are movies that have been released a while ago, and talk about my thoughts on them, seeing what they are, and wonder where they will go. That would have been something I would have said if I didn't go and decide to review something that was outdated. Or reviewed multiple times. But I am sure that I will get that one person who will ask me to review this movie. No. Fuck no. This movie is what I think is the worst animated movie in the history of animation. And I'll tell you why that is. This movie has terrible animation, unlikable characters, and a story that doesn't make any bit of sense. Yes, it is worse than Alpha and Omega, Cool Cat Saves the Kids, Video Brain Kiddo, and even Where the Dead Go to Die. And those are films I just tackled this year. Now granted, I want to review good films and cartoons, which is why I will be adding shows from networks into the mix. With that being said, on to the main event. Let's talk about its history for a bit, shall we? The film was planned on being released on December 2003, 13 years ago before this review was posted. It took a walloping 9 years to develop the film. Why it took that long, you ask? Well, this guy, named Lawrence Kasanoff, was in control of the film during the production. After seeing the trailer they made, I can say that it looks way better than the finished product. Unfortunately, this film went into development hell as some unfinished assets of the movie were stolen, in what Lawrence Kasanoff says, industrial espionage. I heard that the film was going to be doing a cartoony Looney Tunes style, found in movies like Hotel Transylvania and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, both of which would do a fantastic job, mind you. More than I can say about this film. After the incident, Threshold Entertainment had to remake the film from scratch again, this time using motion capture, something that was used in films like The Polar Express, Disney's A Christmas Carol, and even Mars Needs Moms. Lionsgate made a distribution deal with Threshold, and StoryArc and many other companies have given them the money they needed to get the film rolling. In 2011, the film was then auctioned for $2.5 million. Holy crap, that is a lot of money. Then StoryArc investors made sure that this film didn't get sent to its grave, and was then released in 2012. With all that said, the film should have just died out, like God intended. But Kasanoff just couldn't let the film die, could he? Now, let's talk about the animation for a bit. It is a special type of bad. They all have this weird motion capture effect, like I've mentioned before. In this case, combining it with a Looney Tunes cell that they wanted to use, it looks terrible. I mean, there's Alpha and Omega level of laziness, Video Brain Kiddo's level of not trying, Where the Dead Go to Die's level of terrible, and then there's Foodfight. They all seem to have this dead-eyed look to them, as if they're not really alive, but rather like zombies, or even corpses. The animation is stiff and lifeless, even the cartoony slapstick doesn't even look right. They seem to try to work with the same magic that they did in the trailer, but only make things more creepy. Most of the textures on these models tend to look alright, but again, in the trailer, they looked way better. More than I can say for other films. I, for the life of me, can't seem to figure out any other way they could have made this film look like the trailer, other than they didn't have YouTube Video Downloader at the time. Now, the models do look alright, but the only problem is, again, the dead-eyed look to them. There is even this glossy look to them, making them not real people, but more like toys for some reason, which doesn't work for a certain character, which the internet calls
Is that a poop rat? Is that a poop rat?
Yeah, I think that rat does look like shit, both in its animation and textures, as well as a character. The story of Foodfight is that when the store closes up at night, They sort of pull off a Toy Story idea, where the mascots come to life and the store itself becomes a huge city. After a character who has a relationship with the main protagonist called Sunshine Goodness, the main protagonists, Dex Dog Detective and Daredevil Dan, tried to find out what happens to the missing mascots that vanished from the store's shelves. Now, that story seemed interesting at first, but the problem is that they seem to try to add elements that aren't really needed. For example, they made it seem like Brand X is like some sort of Nazi figure. On top of that, they tried to add a sexual tone, which fails at every point of the film. There are even some running jokes involving Mr. Clean getting dirty, or some other lowbrow humor, which further disgusts the viewers. By the way, they added these weird moments in the film and makes things even more creepy, such as Dex having a relationship with Sunshine. Think of it as a relationship with a anthro dog and a human, which is something I haven't done with my characters. Okay, I digress. There are a ton of hookups with different species, such as Roger and Jessica Rabbit from the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and maybe Judy Hopps and Nick from Zootopia? However, it is sort of strange seeing an anthro dog and an anthro cat hooking up like this, but that's a topic for another time. There really isn't anything else I can say about the film, other than the film is, in my opinion, the worst animated film in the history of animation. Animat, IAG, the Nostalgia Critic, JonTron, Phaelus, Brad, and even Lupe all said the same thing.
The writing is absolutely broken, the story is inconsistent and doesn't even know what it's talking about, the humor is unpleasant, the animation is a complete mess, the effects are a joke.
No, I know what this is. I thought they canned this thing over a decade ago.
I do believe I'd have to say this movie was rather no.
Agreed.
All I have to say is, be strong, be brave, be well.
I think every time I watch one of these movies, it takes a year off my life expectancy. I can literally feel the life inside me fade as I absorb this tripe into my brain.
I don't really know what was going through Lawrence Kasanoff's head when he was making this movie, other than, oh, we should go make more money. Foodfight is an example on how not to make a movie. Even something animated, with characters that are trying to be not forgettable, humor that is lowbrow and childish, and a story that tries to be interesting, but has some darker undertones. The film itself gets a solid 1 out of 10. I don't recommend the film to anyone. Not even if you're insanely curious. Honestly, the only thing I got to say about the film is that it is worse than Where the Dead Go to Die. And I'm sure that there's going to be people that will argue with me on that subject, which is all fine and good, but think about it. Really think about it. A film that one person made that is a horror film and was made to be one, or a film that shouldn't have even been made to begin with. This is something I'm pretty sure a lot of people will have a conversation with. Now, I heard that we eventually got the Foodfight movie that we wanted, when the movie Sausage Party was made, which is an even better film from what I've gathered. I highly recommend that film if you want to see Foodfight done right. As for this, let's just pretend that this film never existed. And that ends this episode of Arthur Reviews. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more of all things Arthur Reviews, then subscribe to see more. Is there something you want me to review? Then leave a comment, and I'll take into consideration.